They didn't even try to come up with a decent lie, just lazily copied and pasted the same excuse, word for word, like I wouldn't catch on. I'm Logan. I'm 32. I've never been the guy who steals the spotlight. I've always been more of the quiet type, the one who shows up without a fuss, pays the bill without being asked, picks up your dry cleaning because you forgot again, and somehow always ends up as the default designated driver at family gatherings. Even when there wasn't supposed to be one, I was never the favorite. That title rotated between my cousin Sierra and my brother Brady, or honestly, whoever happened to be in the middle of some dramatic chaos that month. But me, I was the reliable one. The guy who got a quick thanks in a group text when rent was due or when someone needed my Netflix password. It was subtle, really. How I went from being a family member to being their financial backup plan, stitched quietly under the wreckage of their lives. At first, you don't notice it. You just think, okay, they're having a rough time right now, and you help, because that's what family does, right? But then your birthday comes around, and suddenly everyone's busy, just not with you. It all kicked off 2 weeks earlier when I sent a message to the family group chat. Hey, thinking of doing a birthday dinner. Nothing big, just a table at Amici's next Friday. Let me know if you can come. I even offered to pay. No surprise there. I always paid. At some point, they'd stopped even pretending to reach for their wallets. The replies came in slowly, most of them just lazy thumbs up emojis or the classic, I'll try to be there, from my mom, which really meant I won't, but I don't feel like arguing. By the actual day, only 2 people had confirmed, Aunt Diane and her husband, Keith, though Diane texted the night before. If Keith's gout doesn't flare up, we'll see you then, sweetheart. I probably should have known how this was going to end, but like an idiot, I still got dressed up, pressed my nicest shirt, reserved the big table, told the hostess we'd be a party of 10, maybe more. She gave me a polite smile and sat me by the window, setting enough places to look hopeful. At 6 p.m., I was alone sipping water. At 6:15, the first message landed. It was from Brady. Hey man, something came up. We'll celebrate another time. I read it twice. Something about it felt robotic, detached. No explanation, no apology, no real effort. 5 minutes later, my mom sent a message. Same exact wording, punctuation and all. Then came my uncle. Then Sierra. One by one, like they'd rehearsed it. I just sat there staring at my phone, watching the wave of half-hearted excuses roll in like a lazy factory line. Still, I stayed. Ordered a pasta dish I didn't even want. Told the waiter I'd wait a bit longer, just in case. No one else showed up. I paid the bill, left a solid tip, walked out with a plastic bag of leftovers and a kind of quiet anger that doesn't explode. It freezes. It numbs you, locks everything in place. The parking lot was nearly empty. I sat in my car, engine running, scrolling through my phone like a zombie. That's when I saw it. Sierra's Instagram story. A boomerang of her holding a party hat over her French bulldog, Biscuit. The caption, Happy Bark Day, Biscuit. And there they all were. My mom, laughing with a plate of cake. Brady, tying a bow on the damn dog's collar. My aunt, toasting with champagne. All the people who supposedly had something come up. They were there. For a dog. I don't know how long I sat there. At some point, my hands started moving without me even thinking. I opened my banking app, looked at the scheduled payments, my mom's rent, Brady's rent, the temporary loan payments, the auto pay on my aunt's phone bill, the one I'd been covering since her card got hacked. One by one, I canceled them all. Then I opened the utility dashboard. Gas, power, water, not off just yet, but by morning silence would greet them, and not the comforting kind. Lastly, I pulled the spare car key from the ring on my dashboard, the key to Brady's used Audi, the one I'd co-signed for when he was getting back on his feet. I slid it into my jacket pocket, then drove home with my headlights off. The streets were dark, quiet. I didn't text, didn't comment, didn't blow up the group chat or ask why. I just let the silence hang in the air, let it speak for me, let them sit in it. The next morning, my phone lit up. First my mom, then Brady, then Sierra. They all started calling, One after another, I didn't pick up. Then the group chat blew up. Is something wrong with the utilities? Lo, are you up? Did the bank screw up your auto pay? And then came my personal favorite, from my brother. Bro, what's going on? Biscuit party was kinda last minute. You're seriously overreacting. Overreacting. That word stuck in my throat like a splinter. Later that afternoon, my mom posted one of her vague, guilt-trippy Facebook statuses. Some people will punish you just because you weren't free when they needed you. Remember, family doesn't come with conditions. It got 4 likes. One of them from Aunt Diane, who added a comment that read, maybe if you actually appreciated him, he'd still be answering your calls. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I started going through everything that had my name attached to it. The insurance policies, the gym accounts, the car registrations. That's when it hit me. I wasn't a relative anymore. I was infrastructure, a human foundation propping up their messes, paying bills, holding things together, keeping the lights on, literally, and I'd had enough. That night, my phone lit up again. Not just texts now, voicemails, long ones, rambling, some angry, some desperate. Brady left one that started calm. Look, man, but quickly turned into a self-serving rant about how I've always held money over everyone's head, as if being the responsible one made me some kind of villain. My mom left 2 messages. The first one was sugar-coated. Logan, sweetheart, this isn't like you. We all love you. Please don't do this. Just call me. The second came 2 hours later and was drenched in resentment. I don't know what kind of grudge you're carrying, but punishing your own mother. That's a new low, even for you. A new low. For me, I didn't answer. Couldn't. I needed space. Not to blow up, but to stay calm. Because this time, I didn't want to just cut ties. I wanted to pull back the curtain, expose every manipulative string they'd been pulling for years, every fake crisis, every guilt-laced favor. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted them to sit in that silence long enough to understand just how much control they had over me and how little they'd actually earned it. So I made a list. It started with the basics. The phone plan that covered half the family? Canceled. No warning, no heads up. Just logged in, hit remove user, and watched the confirmation emails roll in. I imagined Sierra at the dog park, refreshing Instagram, suddenly without a signal. My uncle cursing at his phone, thinking it was broken. And Brady? He'd probably blame the carrier. That's him. Always someone else's fault. Then came the car. I didn't take it right away. I waited. Let Brady enjoy it for a few more days like everything was normal. Then on Saturday night, I parked a block away, walked to his driveway, and casually drove it off. Spare key still worked. Car wasn't even locked. I left a sticky note on his backup junker, the one he never drives because it's missing a taillight. Since I'm just your wallet, consider this a budget cut. By Monday, the whispers turned into noise. The private pleadings spilled into public theatrics. Brady posted on Facebook, family is supposed to mean loyalty. Funny how that changes when one of you makes a little more money and suddenly thinks he's better than the rest. Of course, no tag. Cowards rarely do. But everyone in the comments knew who he meant. A few even liked the post. His girlfriend commented, you deserve better, babe. Better than what? A brother who paid your rent? Who helped you move 3 cities over? Who fronted your ER bill when you didn't have insurance? I didn't reply. Instead, I wrote an email. To my mom's landlord. Well, to my landlord. She'd been living rent-free in a duplex I owned outright. The lease had always been in my name. For legal reasons, she said. No rent, just a handshake. You help family. So for 4 years I did. I paid taxes, handled repairs, repainted the kitchen twice. But that morning I sent the email. Official notice. 30 days to vacate unless she wanted to start paying fair market rent. Effective immediately. I attached photos, drafted a sample lease, included new payment details, didn't send her a copy directly. I knew it would reach her eventually, and it did. About 2 days later, I got an email from her. Subject line, wow, really? Yes, really. I'd spent years being stung. never once fighting back. But the second I swatted the hive, I was suddenly cruel. Now I was cold, heartless, overreacting. My mom, Brady, Sierra, each of them started spinning their own version of the story, trying to recast themselves as victims, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd changed, that I was cutting them off over one mistake. One mistake? I scrolled back through the messages just to be sure. It wasn't one mistake. There were dozens, hundreds really. My birthday wasn't where it started. It was just the first time I finally noticed. There was the time they begged me to co-sign for Brady's car because he just landed a new job, only to quit 3 weeks later to dive into crypto. Or when Sierra called me in a panic, saying Biscuit was like my baby too, and she couldn't afford the vet bill. Then days later, she posted spa selfies from a weekend getaway. Or when Mom rang me in tears because the water got shut off again, and I wired money over immediately. No questions, no hesitation. Every time I never asked for details. I filled in the blanks with trust, and every single time I was left a little more drained. But the worst part? The guilt. That quiet, ever-present weight that told me if I stopped helping, I'd be the bad guy. That maybe I was cold, maybe I was selfish, maybe somehow I was the problem. But standing there in the dim hallway of my apartment, my phone buzzing with calls I didn't have to answer anymore, something finally clicked. Guilt only has power if you think you owe them something. And I didn't. Not anymore. Just as I was starting to breathe in that new clarity, there was a knock at the door. Not loud, just steady. A slow, deliberate rhythm. I opened it. There he was. Brady. He looked rough, hoodie half-zipped, bloodshot eyes. Not from crying, but from sheer stress. He held his phone like it was a lifeline, his hands trembling just enough to notice. "You took my car," he said. No greeting, no remorse. Just that. I leaned casually against the doorframe. "Technically, it's my car," I said. "But go on." His jaw tensed. "This isn't how you fix things, man." I nearly laughed. "Fix things? You mean like how all of you lied to me, skipped my birthday, then threw a whole party for a dog?" He started to respond. "Sierra said it was just supposed to be a few people and—" "Save it," I cut him off. "You could have picked up the phone, but you didn't. You could have sent something real, but you didn't. You could have shown up at Amici's, but you didn't. But now you're panicking because the gravy train finally pulled into the station." He flinched at that. "Good," he rubbed his temples. "Look, we messed up. I get it. But you don't have to torch the whole place just to make a point." I looked him straight in the eye. "No," I said. "I don't have to. I want to." And then I closed the door. But I knew that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because desperate people, they start making moves they can't undo. The next one didn't come from Brady. It came from my mom. 3 days after Brady showed up, I found a thick envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, scrawled in her familiar, looping cursive. Inside, a 2-page handwritten letter and a folded photograph tucked in at the end with painfully precise creases. The photo showed me at maybe 5 or 6 years old. A birthday cake in front of me. A big smile on my face. Mom standing behind me, hands on my shoulders like we were some kind of picture-perfect family. The letter began, "I don't know when you became this cold, Logan, but I miss my son." From there, it spiraled into a full retelling of my childhood. The sacrifices she made, the nights she worked so I could have a bike, how she never asked for anything in return except for love and understanding. She talked about losing my dad too soon, how hard it was to raise boys on her own. And then came the shift, the inevitable pivot. "You always seemed to understand, Lo. That's what made you different. You were strong. You didn't complain. You just helped. You always helped." That line stung more than I expected. Because it was true, I did help. But not because I was strong, because I felt obligated, because I was scared not to. Because somewhere along the line, I started believing that if I didn't carry everyone's weight, the whole thing would collapse. And worse, that I wasn't worth anything unless I did. She ended the letter with, "I hope you find your way back to this family before it's too late. We still love you. Even if you've forgotten how to love us back, it was a guilt grenade, wrapped in nostalgia, tied with a martyr's bow. And for just a second, just one moment, I felt it working. I felt those old strings trying to pull me back. Then I looked at the photo again, and that's when it hit me. That day didn't end like the photo showed. I remember crying. The cake had been smashed, thrown off the table by Brady because my present was bigger than his. And Mom, she didn't comfort me. She scolded me for making a scene. That picture? It was the one good second of a terrible day, a snapshot now weaponized to reel me back in. That was the moment everything turned. The next morning, I carefully placed the letter and photo into a box and dropped it on her porch. Unopened, unfolded. No note, no words, just silence. Returned to sender. And that silence? It didn't last long, because the next week they escalated. They sent someone. Well, more like ambushed me. It happened at a little cafe I used to hit on Thursdays during lunch. I hadn't changed my routine. And looking back, that was my mistake. I was mid-sip on an Americano, flipping through a book, when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. A book? A voice sliced through my focus. Still playing the genius card, huh? Acting like you're smarter than the rest of us? I glanced up. Uncle Victor. If you've ever met someone who oozes sleaze with just enough fake charm to make you want to wash your hands afterward, you've met someone like Victor. He was the kind of guy who could borrow cash from a funeral and somehow still ask for seconds at the wake. He'd already been cut off by half the family for never paying people back, but like clockwork, he always crawled back in whenever things got messy, like a vulture circling fresh roadkill. Without asking, he pulled out the chair across from me and plopped down like we were long-lost drinking buddies catching up. I told them not to write that letter, he started, leaning in like he was offering wisdom. I said, Lo's a man. You talk to men face to face. But your mom, she's got that soft heart, you know. That woman raised you. I said nothing, just stared. Blank. He took the silence as a green light. I don't know what kind of meltdown this is or what lies they told to set you off, but you're hurting people who care about you. Your mom's falling apart. Your brother, sleeping on my couch. He paused like that was supposed to guilt me. You really gonna let this go on? I blinked, slowly. So was that your mission statement? I asked. Or is the emotional blackmail just a bonus round? His smirk faltered. I came because I care, he muttered, voice all gravel and self-righteousness. But if you keep going like this, you're gonna end up all alone, Logan. This isn't what family does. I leaned forward, my voice low and even. This is exactly what family does. My family, at least. They pretend silence means love. They act like obligation is the same thing as connection. They use guilt like currency and expect you to never question the cost. His mouth twitched. I'm not the villain here, he said under his breath. You were never even part of the plot, I replied, picking up my coffee. He didn't exit quietly. He grumbled something, knocked over the creamer tray in a theatrical huff, and stormed out. The barista raised an eyebrow at me. I just shrugged and turned back to my book. But that wasn't the finale. That was just the trailer. Because 2 days later, I got an alert from my bank. Someone was trying to access my account. Then again, and again. Password reset requests started piling in. All denied. I immediately locked everything down. Changed every login, contacted my bank, and flagged all accounts connected to my name. See, I grew up with these people. I knew exactly how far they'd go when things stopped being convenient. Desperation makes people reckless. And then came the final confirmation. A text from Brady. You think you're better than us? Fine. But don't forget who changed your diapers. Who fed you? You owe this family everything. And when mom's gone, don't show up crying. I stared at that screen for a long time. That last line, that was the phrase they always used when they needed to scare me back into the fold. When mom's gone, it wasn't a sentiment, it was a threat. They still believed they could pull the same strings. That love equaled debt. That fear would always bring me back. But not this time. This time, I wasn't just walking away. I was cutting the cord. Clean. Permanent. No room for confusion. No Facebook sob stories. No teary calls about misunderstandings. They were about to learn exactly what life without me really looked like. I didn't answer Brady's message. No reply, no call, not a single word. Instead, I logged into the financial software I use for my consulting clients, the same platform where, over the years, I had built folders for everyone in the family I was helping. Family support was the top folder. Inside it, subfolders like Mom, Utilities, Brady, Auto, Sierra, Pet Emergencies. What began as temporary support had silently morphed into full-blown lifelines. No one ever asked when the help would stop. They just assumed it never would. That day I deleted the whole folder, but I wasn't done. I spent the rest of the week planning my final step. This wasn't about revenge, wasn't some dramatic finale. I wanted something irreversible, clear, final. I sold the duplex my mother had been living in. The place was legally mine, bought outright years ago after I signed my first major client. She moved in temporarily after losing money on a bad investment. We never discussed rent. There was never talk of moving out. It became hers in her mind. To me, it became a shrine to her entitlement. And I was tired of playing the curator. I didn't evict her. I sold the entire property to a development company buying up the block. They offered above market. No questions asked. I signed, closed, and let the paperwork do the rest. 2 weeks later, she got the notice. From them, not me. I braced for the storm, but nothing came. 3 days of silence. And then, the voicemail. Her voice wasn't loud. She didn't yell or sob. It was flat, measured, cold. So that's it? You're just cutting me out like I'm nobody? Like I didn't raise you? You sold my home? Over a birthday dinner? That was how her voicemail started. Not a single apology, no mention of the lies, no acknowledgement of the dog party, no reflection on the years she spent manipulating me into funding their lives while mine quietly eroded in the background. In her eyes, I was the traitor. I had crossed the line. I had done the unthinkable. I chose myself. And that was the one thing she couldn't forgive. I let that voicemail rot in my inbox, untouched, like all the others. But I wasn't finished. I started filing the paperwork to sever every last legal tie I had to them. No more co-signed accounts. No more shared phone plans. No more quiet obligations hiding in the fine print of my life. I even checked my life insurance. Hadn't thought about it in years. And sure enough, Brady was still listed as the emergency beneficiary. I changed it. As for the car I'd reclaimed from him, didn't sell it, didn't try to recoup a dime. I donated it. Interior was wrecked anyway. I switched phone carriers, got a new number, new SIM, fresh start. Only 3 people got that number, my best friend, my boss, and my therapist. Then I moved. Not far, just far enough. New address. A building with a gate and controlled access. No entry unless I buzz you in. No forwarding address. No update. I vanished from their radar. Completely. They didn't take it well. Sierra took to Instagram, a flurry of passive-aggressive stories about toxic family members who forget where they came from. One post even showed her cuddling a teary-eyed biscuit with the caption, "He doesn't understand why Uncle Lo doesn't love him anymore." I almost laughed. Brady, of course, had to take it further. He reached out through a mutual friend, tried to pass along a message. The friend shut it down immediately. "He doesn't owe you anything." But my mom, she kept it quiet. No public outbursts. She went back to sending letters, 1 per week, handwritten. Always the same pattern. Soft openings followed by subtle gaslighting. "I never meant to hurt you, but you've always been so sensitive." Or my personal favorite, "I just wish you remembered everything I did for you." Sometimes she'd slip in photos. Me and Brady as kids, her and me at my graduation. All smiles, carefully frozen moments, sent like proof that love once existed. I burned the first letter, tossed the second. By the 5th, I stopped opening them altogether. Then, silence. No letters, no calls, no secondhand messages. And for the first time in my adult life, I could finally breathe without guilt pressing down on my chest. I got back into the gym. I started writing again. Something I hadn't done in years. I even began volunteering at a nonprofit that helps young adults aging out of foster care. They were amazed at how easily I managed budgets, spreadsheets, resource planning. I didn't explain why I was so good at it. Didn't tell them how I'd basically been running a one-man welfare system for my family for the last decade. It didn't matter anymore. About 3 months passed before I saw one of them in person. It was Brady. He was standing outside a strip mall, yelling into his phone. He looked worn down, thinner. His clothes were frayed, shoes scuffed, energy brittle. I was ready to slip away unnoticed, but he saw me. Locked eyes. He didn't charge over, didn't raise his voice, just walked, slowly, cautiously, like he wasn't sure what version of me he'd get. "Hey," he said. I didn't answer. He looked down. "You're really gone, huh?" Still, I said nothing. He hesitated. "I just—" He trailed off, then sighed. "Forget it." He turned to go, took a few steps, then looked back over his shoulder. "You know, Mom still checks the mailbox," he said. "Hopes one day one of those envelopes will be from you." I finally looked up, really looked at him, and I said the last words I would ever say to any of them. "She already got everything I had to give." He didn't argue, didn't plead. He just nodded, once, and walked away. And that was the end. No tearful reunion, no surprise twist, no big apology that magically erased a lifetime of taking. Just me, finally free. The last birthday I spent with them, I sat alone in a restaurant, humiliated, invisible. The first birthday I spent without them, I sat in my new place, ordered my favorite takeout, got 3 video calls from people who actually cared. No guilt, no fake performance, just peace. And as I closed my laptop that night, it hit me. Leaving wasn't the hard part. It was admitting I should have done it a long, long time ago.